My name is Agnes Abuom, the immediate World Council of Churches Central Committee moderator. I'd like to share a couple of thoughts about my ecumenical journey and where I am at the moment and looking into the future. Very unexpectedly, I came back from Karlsruhe, and while recuperating, I was called by the office of our Archbishop that I was being considered as a lay canon. And so the communication for like 3 to 4 weeks was circulated in all our parishes. We were 7 of us, 3 clergy and 4 lay. I was the only lay woman. And I see this as a new chapter in my journey. It's also giving back to my church. It is a new chapter in my spiritual pilgrimage of justice and peace, with great emphasis on the ministry of reconciliation. It is an honor, and this honor comes partly because of serving the ecumenical movement and the global church. It does not require much, but we are supposed to be there to offer advice. We are available to the larger church. I'm also been availed to the communion, the Anglican communion in Lambeth. So it's a chapter that I'm trying to see. And of course, for those of you who have followed me and my journey in the council and the Anglican communion, know that it has pained when my own communion could not resolve in an amicable manner matters human sexuality. So I'm still waiting on the Lord and discerning exactly the entry points. I'm a child of the movement, the fellowship, picked rather at a time when issues of justice and peace were so critical in my country and in the region. At the time when the Cold War was raging quite high. And so at the age of 25, I joined the fellowship and the movement, but I'd like to focus more on my last phase of the journey because I saw the divine move of God. It is a time when the whole venture of discernment, consensus, decision-making really became a reality. And as I left the movement, that lingered in my mind that it would be the best for most of our communions. And of course, speaking as an Anglican, which is quite parliamentary and hierarchical in its own structures, particularly when it comes to contentious matters or matters where we do not quite have a common understanding, a common mind. I think this is something. So as I left the council at the 11th Assembly, September 2022, I left with this very important experience of consensus building, consensus decision-making, discerning the will of God. That resonates so much with me. And of course, when you are in the business of mediation, reconciliation, and peace building, what else would you anchor your work on other than this type of decision-making? Now, in 2013, there was very little talk before that whether I was going to be a candidate for leadership. I was approached and I said, well, if it's the will of God, fine. And here I would like to thank the then General Secretary who believed, and of course the leadership at that time, which was the moderator from Brazil, Professor Walter Altman, for believing that I could carry the mantle from this renowned Lutheran professor, a theologian by excellence, and me being both lay in many ways. And so, as the assembly concluded and the first Central Committee met, I was given the honor to lead the new face of the council. It has been a very, very exciting, challenging, strenuous, but fruitful experience. Just to remind us that I was the first female moderator from the African continent, a lay person. And so in many ways, when you look at it from a professional, ecclesiastical point of view, you might think that, well, how would she manage? But the structure of the council governance is such that you have other people to support you, to work with you, to hold you accountable, and to teach you and show you the ropes. There are a couple of things that I like to highlight on this journey. The fact that Pilgrimage of Justice and Peace became the strategy, again, resonated very much with my own work. But more than that, it was accessible to the communions, to the members, to the fellowship, and it became so critical in rallying the pillars and the work, past, present, and even focusing into the future. And so the whole Pilgrimage of Justice and Peace became such an engaging tool, such an engaging umbrella that became a household of communions, men and women of faith. That I would like to lift. It also helped the programmatic work. And this is important because I have been in the council. And if there was anything that remained a nightmare until after Busan, was actually the program cohesion, coordination, confluence. But PJP, for some reason, with the help of the staff, helped us solve that. Now, the fellowship also, despite COVID, deepened to a very large extent. As we traversed in the first years, we realized that our members, the fellowship, was experiencing different challenges, but coming together from different angles. This meant that we had to deepen the spiritual life. And as we left, I would say that both at the head office, in terms of the structure and the movement, our spiritual life of prayer, our spiritual life of sharing became very deep. COVID meant that the communions had to find different ways of conducting business. And here I want to emphasize my yearning that the intergenerational work became very vivid because we needed technology as the seniors, and who else would we turn to but the young men and women? And it worked very well. Now, some of the milestones, in my view, you will recollect that World Council did outsource, created a new movement, a new body to handle humanitarian work, ACT Alliance, churches acting together. Now, the resource document, Ecumenical Diaconia, is such a milestone. It is one of those documents that I would say, as we left, we thanked God because it brought together the different theological perspectives from Orthodox to Pentecostals to how instituted African independent churches do address this. And I would say that anyone interested in digging deeper on the work of diaconia and looking at the theological, spiritual grounding, this is a great resource. The second one was, of course, the whole issue of human sexuality. Human sexuality has been with the council for as long as I can remember, and it became a very dividing issue in the body, particularly among our member churches. But this time round, through this process of discernment, we were able to at least find consensus, and the resource document is available for member churches who want to deepen their dialogue, who want to engage at a different level. The final document, there are several documents, the unity document, the faith and order document on moral discernment. The role of communications department and staff cannot be underestimated or overestimated. During this period, we have seen the pivotal role that communication really can play in any fellowship, any organization. And of course, through communication, we have been able to realize and to monitor the work of the council, the realization of objectives. The use of social media became very important. My final point is the fact that COVID had created so many issues. There were so many tensions as we began to move to the 11th Assembly. And of course, as I said, when you're in leadership, it's a bit difficult, but the choice of the acting General Secretary after the substantive General Secretary declined to continue to assume a new role could not have been divine, because they've been able to deal with the issues of Ukraine, name them, Palestine. And so I want to thank God for that. I think for me, as we move forward, the World Council of Churches must seriously, and the fellowship for that matter, address the issues of young people. Busan was poor, Karlsruhe was even poorer. I think this is something we cannot continue to live. Our heritage will not be possible without an active young community in the fellowship, number one. Number two, we need to engage with other religions with a lot of wisdom, because yes, it is a new momentum, a new method of collaboration, but then we need to deepen, like what Bosa is doing, our content of faith, so that we engage confidently, we engage with honor, and we can still speak the language of unity, but from our perspective. Finally, I'd like to say that the issues of violence, of justice, climate change, which we have tried to tackle, brothers and sisters in Christ, we have to repent, we have to act. We can no longer just do prayers. We can no longer just plant trees. We've got to move further. I thank God that we have so many groups working now on this. And it's a matter that together with men and women of faith, other faiths, we should really tackle this matter. Now, my message to the Ecumenical Fellowship: never before has the issue of unity been tested. particularly within our own churches. As we finished Karlsruhe, there were scars from the divisions and schisms. We could never be weaker than where we were as we met in Karlsruhe, because the bickering around matters, human sexuality, left our communions vulnerable. Now, how do we forge unity? That's why the unity statement requires more input. Unity, both politically, economically, when confluence of crises is so huge against humanity, when human life and creation at large is so threatened, when can we stand up? We must, as a fellowship, look forward. We will not make a contribution the way we have done in the last 70 years if we do not stand up and say enough is enough. We have a calling, we have a mission, we have a purpose to save the planet, to save humanity, and to preach the good news of salvation, of freedom to the perishing, to the enslaved. So how do we do that? Let us unite. Let's open doors and tables to the young people, to the women of faith. We have so many groups, but we must continue to heal the scars of economic deprivation, the scars of violence that is claiming lives, the scars of plunder of the planet. And therefore, many are dying in the seas, in the deserts, because of our sin. We better use the language. So as I conclude, may I say that it's not late. I think we have some concrete pieces to build around from Karlsruhe. We need the new leadership of the World Council of Churches, the new General Secretary, and the new leadership to really focus and to engage churches, women, young people, to really see how do we get out of the quagmire. Can we bring a message of hope to the global financial institutions on how to change? Can we bring a message of lamentation and hope to the UN that as it restructures, we need a viable, effective, united, but focused UN on life and justice? The ecumenical movement and the World Council of Churches is very much a needed tool, a needed organization, a needed group of men and women to resuscitate the values of dignity, of justice, of rights. So we cannot sit back. There is no winter, it is summer. And it is summer with green and fruits, although they are threatened by lack of water and lack of oxygen. Let us make sure oxygen given by God freely to all shall be available to all. I thank men and women whom I've served in this movement with, who have stood so closely with me in prayer, physically, both at the staff level, at the membership level, because you cannot be a leader without support. I experienced beautiful team spirit, collegiality in our work. And of course, we finished a little bit on a sour note, because then one of us was called home, but that is part of the pilgrimage. We lose people, some get maimed, others continue. And so I thank God that despite the challenges, we handed over the mantle, and I want to bless and pray that God grants strength, wisdom to the new leadership. Let's not just welcome new life, Jesus Christ, the baby, but let him be a symbol of what we want to see in our communions and in our families and in our nations. Thank you.